During the Soviet Union's peak before its dissolution, it was the only superpower capable of rivaling the United States. Back then, the Soviet Union was incredibly powerful. Starting in the 1950s, the Soviet Union began to compete with the US for global dominance, engaging in a worldwide struggle known as the Cold War. This rivalry was evident in many areas, primarily in military, economic, and technological development. In 1970, the Soviet Union initiated the Kola Superdeep Borehole project with the simple goal of drilling through the Earth. The Soviet Union wanted to be the first to explore the Earth's core, and this was a massive project that lasted from 1970 until 1994. The borehole reached a depth of 12,262 meters and was abruptly stopped in 1991, with the entrance sealed tightly with a metal plate. So why did this massive, resource-intensive research project suddenly halt? What secrets might be hidden behind this decision that the world doesn't know about? A superpower's desperate attempt to drill deep into the Earth. In fact, the idea of drilling into the Earth initially came from the United States. By that time, the US had already made its way into space and then set its sights on gaining the upper hand in exploring the Earth's interior. American scientists believed that there were countless treasures buried underground. They thought that reaching the Earth's core would not only advance the US's drilling and research technologies but also boost the US economy with the treasures hidden beneath the Earth. As the US began assembling a team for this project, the Soviet Union got wind of it. The Soviet government immediately gathered its best exploration scientists and quickly formed a research team. Regardless of whether the plan had any scientific value, both superpowers were determined to be the first in every field. The Soviet Union named this project the Kola Superdeep Borehole. Upon hearing about it, the US quickly began its own Earth drilling efforts. At that time, the Soviet Union was at the peak of its power. To showcase its might to the world, it widely publicized the launch of this project, shocking countries worldwide. Nations across the globe thought that the rivalry between the Soviet Union and the US had reached a point where neither would back down, even in the face of death. The Soviet Union assembled thousands of researchers for this project, but curiously, only a few were allowed to conduct research on-site. Some thought this might be a measure to maintain secrecy, considering the advanced technology the Soviet Union was using in this project. The Soviet Union invested heavily in this endeavor. Everyone involved in the drilling project was promised an apartment in Moscow. It's important to understand that, at that time, owning an apartment in Moscow was highly valuable. In addition to housing, the workers were paid shockingly high wages. A worker's monthly salary for this project was nearly equal to a Soviet university professor's annual income. From the outset, the Soviet government knew this would be a multi-year endeavor. To ensure smooth transportation of supplies and personnel for the project, the Soviet Union built a city right next to the drilling site, named Zapolyarny. The entire research plan was of such high importance that it was directly overseen by the Soviet Minister of Geology, with every step of the progress regularly reported to the highest leadership of the Soviet Union. The deeper the drilling went, the more frequently drill bits needed to be replaced due to the increasing temperatures deep underground. Drilling a hole, in simple terms, is relatively straightforward. However, drilling a hole that reaches the Earth's core is an incredibly difficult task. Many drill bits melted from the high temperatures even before they could start working deep underground. Thus, Soviet scientists began developing drill bits that could withstand higher temperatures. It's said that many hands make light work, and a group of Soviet scientists managed to develop special drill bits capable of withstanding temperatures up to 300 degrees Celsius. To avoid future issues, they also equipped the drill bits with cooling systems. The US was not far behind and quickly developed its own special drill bits. The research achievements of the drilling project. In this massive project, many firsts in human history were discovered, one of which was the discovery of large hydrogen deposits. Deep underground, there are numerous sediment layers where the temperature is extremely high, and they are constantly boiling. The extreme heat damaged the special drill bits, but this situation greatly pleased the Soviet researchers, as it marked the third major scientific achievement after the Soviet space station and deep-sea exploration vessel. To this day, Russian scientists still take pride in this accomplishment. As they continued drilling deeper, they reached a point where the drill could no longer function underground. Even the superalloy drill bits melted into molten iron as soon as they reached this depth. The Soviet military technology was quite advanced. To address this problem, the Soviet Union gathered all the scientists in the country who specialized in this field to brainstorm solutions. Finally, the scientists came up with a solution. The cost of this project was astronomical, with tens of thousands of researchers involved, and more than 100,000 workers. During the 20-plus years of drilling, workers were replaced multiple times. The Soviet government paid the scientists and workers very high wages, with labor costs alone amounting to a staggering figure. As more workers were needed for the project, the Soviet government issued nationwide recruitment notices, and the lucrative treatment and salaries attracted tens of thousands of young and strong Soviet citizens to join the project. Even the powerful U.S. could not sustain its efforts, stopping after 5 years. The USS drilling project was in Oklahoma, and due to the difficult work and remote location, the U.S. also paid high wages to the scientists and workers. The U.S. government invested significant human and financial resources in this project annually, but there were no particularly outstanding research results. Finally, when the U.S. reached a depth of 4,700 meters, it decisively stopped the project. Seeing the U.S. give up, the Soviet Union was overjoyed. This indicated that in terms of exploration, the Soviet Union had surpassed the U.S. and was now the world leader. The Soviet Union then poured even more funding into the project, as if they wouldn't stop until they drilled through the earth. The Soviet Union treated this as a national priority, and despite economic difficulties, they never reduced funding for the project. The whole world thought the Soviet Union's actions were incredibly crazy. When they reached a depth of 9,500 meters, Soviet scientists discovered that the crust samples they retrieved contained a gold content of 80 grams per ton. This number was astounding. It's important to know that a mineral layer with a gold content of 4 grams per ton is commercially viable, and even reaching 5 grams per ton is rare. Yet this had 80 grams per ton. It was like an inexhaustible gold mine. At this depth, the project became increasingly difficult, but with the knowledge of such rich gold deposits in the Earth's crust, the Soviet government invested even more human and material resources into the project. At that time, many scientists involved in the project believed that when they reached the Earth's core, there would be an inexhaustible supply of gold. If these gold deposits could be mined, the Soviet Union's national power would be greatly enhanced. The scientists were incredibly excited about this plan and worked tirelessly around the clock researching how to use the drill bits. At a depth of 10,000 meters, the temperature exceeded 400 degrees Celsius, requiring more frequent drill bit replacements. These drill bits were incredibly expensive and couldn't be reused after melting in the Earth's core. Over 20 years, the Soviet government spent nearly $1 billion on drill bits alone. As technology advanced, the equipment was continually upgraded, and the prices of these devices were alarmingly high. Scientists across the Soviet Union were very supportive of this project. To drill even deeper, scientists from all over the country gave suggestions and ideas to the government. Countries worldwide thought the Soviet Union's drilling plan would continue indefinitely. However, 20 years passed in a blink of an eye, and there were great changes. The once unbreakable Union of Soviet Socialist Republics announced its dissolution on December 25, 1991. Even after the Soviet Union's dissolution, the project continued. 12,262 meters marked the end. The new government continued what the former Soviet Union had started. Despite the country's hardships, the project's funding was never cut off. The city of Zapolyarny, built around the massive hole, had grown in size, and the city originally built for the drilling project still served the drilling efforts. In 1994, the drilling work at the Kola Superdeep Borehole officially ended. The Russian government explained to the public that it was due to a lack of funds. At that time, the borehole had reached a depth of 12,262 meters. In fact, by 1983, the drilling had already reached 12,000 meters. However, the Soviet government wasn't sure if there was any value in continuing to drill, so the last 262 meters were slowly advanced over 10 years. After stopping the drilling in 1994, the project itself didn't completely stop. Researchers meticulously studied the crust samples and various materials brought up from the borehole. The researchers who had devoted their youth to this project continued their studies until 2006. In that year, the Russian government announced that the project had run out of funds. From that point on, this massive exploration project in human history officially came to an end. However, people were puzzled by the sudden conclusion of this project. Was it really just due to a lack of funds, as the Russian government claimed? Regarding why they stopped drilling, There are several reasons, one of which was, as the government said, a lack of funds. The Russian government felt that the borehole project was too costly. However, another theory suggests that the Russians accidentally discovered something at the bottom of the borehole, leading to a halt in the project. This argument suggests that the scientists heard a strange sound underground and were certain they had accidentally reached a mysterious location. The sound was said to be like human screams, eerie and horrifying. There were even theories that the Russian scientists found an entrance to hell. To avoid causing panic, the Russian government quickly stopped the project, saying they would continue when the time was right. However, as time passed, people's curiosity about the borehole grew. If the borehole were to be reopened, there would be significant opposition from various quarters. This borehole, the deepest in human history, remains sealed, as if it holds a secret that shouldn't be revealed. As of today, no country in the world has attempted to challenge this record, nor does anyone want to start.